As we were heading to a family reunion, my husband suddenly went white as a sheet and urgently whispered, "Turn the car around right now." I was taken aback, not understanding what was going on. "Why? What's wrong?" I asked, but all he said was, "Please just turn around." I trusted him without hesitation. And that decision turned out to be the right one. When I eventually found out the reason behind his request, it completely changed how I saw my parents. What had seemed like a simple family gathering was, in fact, part of a much larger and unsettling plan. I left early, snacks packed in the back seat and coffee on the passenger side, ready for the drive. A few hours on the road, and we'd cross into Canada to visit some relatives. The plan seemed simple enough: a family reunion, some hugs, and a dish of potato salad to pretend to enjoy. It was supposed to be a routine, borderline dull trip, the kind that feels comforting in its predictability. I was the one behind the wheel, as usual, mainly because my husband always waits too long to brake, and also because I have a talent for motion sickness. The kids, ages 5, 7, and 10, were semi-awake in the back seat, half watching cartoons, half bickering over imaginary lines drawn on the seat cushions. A small, chaotic, but manageable scene in matching neck pillows. It was fine. Not magical, not terrible. Just fine, until he said it. "Turn around now." At first, I didn't really react. Maybe I laughed or gave him a look, assuming it was a joke, though not a funny one. "Why?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, just kept staring ahead, then finally said, "Please just turn around." That's when I realized it wasn't a joke. My husband doesn't panic. He's usually calm, or occasionally just tired. I've seen him handle a kitchen fire with more composure than most people show during a casual conversation. So I took the next exit, the last one before the border. The exit curved gently, almost as if the road was giving me a second chance. Once we left the highway, I saw my husband visibly relax. Not entirely, but enough for me to notice he'd been holding himself tense. "Okay," I said. "Want to tell me what's going on now?" He shook his head. "Just drive." "Drive where?" I asked. "I don't know," he answered. "Anywhere but there." The kids were starting to notice. "Are we going the wrong way?" my middle child asked. "We forgot something," I said, trying to brush it off. "What?" the youngest piped up. "Is it snacks?" I didn't answer, and my husband didn't speak again for a long while. We drove in silence. 20 minutes, maybe more. Just miles of trees and the weight of something unspoken, pressing against the back of my neck. Then he spoke again. "Take the next turn off." It led to a secluded road with no signs, no purpose. Just a narrow access road. A place you only find when you're lost, or on the verge of being. I pulled off. He unbuckled his seatbelt. "Stay here," he said, and got out, walking to the back of the car. I couldn't see him from where I sat, so I just waited, feeling a strange unease settle in. My hands were sweaty, my heart beating too fast, as if it already knew something was about to happen. After a minute, the trunk closed, and he returned to my window. "Can you come out?" he asked. "Why?" I replied. "I need you to see it." He didn't sound angry, or even scared, just tired and certain. So I got out of the car, and he led me to the back. Without a word, he opened the trunk and pointed. I looked inside, and then everything went still. I wasn't scared, not yet. What I felt wasn't fear but something heavier, slower, like falling through the floor of my own life. I didn't touch anything. I didn't need to. I just knew that one wrong choice could undo everything. For the longest time, I thought I was the responsible one in the family. The stable one who didn't explode, vanish, or lie. I thought I was the one who tried. The one who offered help and set boundaries when necessary. But in that moment, I realized that being the responsible one was like being the designated driver at a demolition derby. No one wanted help. They just needed cover. And I'd given them that cover for years. It started when I was a kid. My parents were obsessed with the image of living well, not the reality of it. As long as we looked successful, had 5 kinds of mustard in the fridge, new patio furniture no one used, everything was fine. Even when things were tight, when credit cards were maxed out and the gas got shut off, they insisted everything was fine. The script was clear. Stick to it, or be rewritten. I remember the times we had to stretch every dollar. Eating cereal for dinner while one or both of my parents worked late, the term working late really meaning, we don't want you to know we can't afford anything. But there were also times of abundance. New car, new TV, new everything, but it never lasted. The money came and went, but the spending habits never changed. I once asked my dad why we didn't save more during the good times. He told me, "You don't need to save if you know how to hustle." I was 8 years old when he said that. My sister, the favorite, inherited all of it. The hustle, the shine, the ability to light up a room while subtly draining the self-respect from others. I wasn't like that. I was boring. That's what they called me, sometimes to my face. Boring, uptight, too serious. One Thanksgiving, my mom told me my problem was I mistook discipline for personality. And for a long time, I believed them. Growing up in that kind of environment, you start to think the only way to earn love is to stay useful, to stay reasonable. So that's what I did. I became the responsible one. They'd call me when they needed help, whether it was navigating insurance claims or filling out school applications. And when my sister lost yet another job and needed a temporary bridge, I gave them what I could, just enough to keep everything from falling apart. But everything changed a few months before the trip. My sister's son, my nephew, had been struggling in school, bullied, anxious, withdrawn, and I began to realize that no matter how much I helped, I was just covering up the cracks, not fixing them. They had him assessed, and it turned out that a therapist suggested a smaller environment for him. They'd found a private school, highly exclusive and expensive, that, according to them, was life-changing. They couldn't afford it, of course, but they managed to get him conditionally accepted if they could put down a deposit. They just needed a little help to secure the spot. They promised to pay me back. The moment they said that, I felt a tightness in my chest. It wasn't that I didn't care, I did. I genuinely wanted the best for him. But I knew how this story played out. I'd seen it before. So I said, no. I said it gently, like you would say it to someone holding something fragile. I can't pay for private school. I have 3 kids of my own. We don't do private school. I'm sorry. They didn't yell. They just went quiet, cold. My mom muttered, "Of course I forgot. You have rules." And then we didn't talk for a while until the reunion came up. Suddenly, everything was cheerful again. They were thrilled to see us, acting like everything had worked out. They had figured things out, including the school, the reunion, and the trip. I didn't ask how. I told myself it wasn't my business. They asked if we could take an extra bag in our car. Their car was full, and we had the SUV. Sure, I said. Just let me know. That was a few days before the trip. The morning we were leaving, as we were packing up, my dad handed me the red duffel. "Won't fit in ours," he said. "Just this one." Without thinking, I took it and tossed it into our car with the kids' backpacks and a cooler full of juice boxes. I didn't even unzip it, didn't think much of it. I didn't stop to wonder why they were so relaxed all of a sudden. These were the same people who had guilt-tripped me into not helping before, but now they were completely at ease. They smiled as we pulled out of the driveway, waving like they didn't have a care in the world. And for a moment I thought, weird. They seem happy. But I didn't think much of it. It was just another bag, just another trip, just another family situation I didn't want to get involved in. Maybe I should have asked more questions. Maybe I was too naive. He didn't sound angry or scared, just tired and sure. "I need you to see it," he said. I got out, and he led me to the back of the car, opening the trunk without saying a word. He didn't speak, just unzipped the red duffel and folded back a sweatshirt. That's when time seemed to freeze. Inside, wedged between clothes, stuffed into a child's toiletry bag, were packets. Not one. There were several. They weren't even hidden well, just beneath some clothes. Not medicine, not vitamins. Nothing with a purpose that didn't scream handcuffs, lawyers, or headlines. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My chest tightened, like I was drowning in slow motion. He didn't say, "Look what they did." He didn't say, "This is what I thought." He just zipped the bag back up. And the silence did all the talking. I stepped back. The sound of gravel under my feet felt disconnected, like it wasn't real. "They put that in our car. I finally said, my voice barely audible. He nodded. With the kids, I added. Another nod. I looked up at the sky, as if it could make sense of this. It was still blue. Still the kind of day you wouldn't expect something like this to happen. How did you know? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. He just stared at the closed trunk like it might still be open. When they gave us the bag, he said quietly. Something in their eyes, the way they smiled, like it was already done. He shrugged, shaking his head, trying to shake off the memory. I couldn't stop thinking about it the whole drive. Then just before the border, it hit me. He looked at me. I didn't know, but somehow I knew. And that was worse, knowing that someone else had seen what I had trained myself not to see. I turned around, walked back to the driver's seat, got in, closed the door, and sat there for a minute. The heat from the windshield soaked into my skin while my hand shook. Then I started the car, and we drove. The kids didn't ask anything this time. They were deep into their cartoons, lost in their world. They'd forgotten about Canada, about Auntie Karen and the cousins, and the little toy bags I'd secretly packed for them. We just kept driving, highways, side roads, no clear direction. My phone started buzzing. First it was my mom, then my dad, then again, then again. I didn't answer. Neither did he. We didn't need to. We both knew what they would say. Where are you? What happened? Are you okay? Where's the bag? We didn't respond. We just kept driving. The phone lit up every few minutes, like a tiny alarm ringing in the background. Finally, we pulled up to their house. It felt like autopilot. We didn't speak. We both knew what had to happen. I parked in the driveway, the porch light still on from the night before, even though it was the afternoon. He got out first, walked to the trunk. I followed. We didn't say a word. I reached for the mat, found the key taped to the back of the fake rock my dad bought from a catalog. He unlocked the door. We walked inside. The air smelled like stale coffee and carpet cleaner. We placed the red duffel just inside the hallway. Didn't open it. Didn't touch it. Just set it down like a quiet bomb that didn't need to go off to destroy everything. He locked the door behind us. We got back in the car, no words. It was like speaking would make it worse. Later that day, after the kids were asleep and the house was still, I answered the phone. It was my mother. Her voice was bright but hollow, like she was calling about muffins. Oh honey, we were so worried. You just disappeared. What happened? I didn't say anything. Is everything okay? Still nothing. Where's the bag? I let the question hang for a moment. Then I responded. We dropped it off at your house. A pause. If it was that important, I added, maybe you should have taken it yourself. Her voice didn't falter, but I caught that tiny shift, the brief acknowledgement that she knew I knew exactly what had happened. She stayed silent. So did I. We're not doing this. Don't call again. I hung up. That was it. No yelling, no dramatic speeches, just a line drawn and a door closed. But it didn't end there. Not yet. They showed up on a Wednesday, no warning, no text, just the doorbell ringing, as if they were bringing muffins instead of a heap of guilt. I knew it was them before I even looked through the peephole. There's a kind of pressure in the air when people think they've done no wrong. I opened the door just wide enough to step outside, closing it behind me. My parents stood there, looking like they hadn't tried to ruin my life just hours ago with a duffel bag of deceit. My mom flashed a tight, practiced grin, the kind meant to seem warm but didn't reach her eyes. We just wanted to check in, she said, as though we were friends missing out on a brunch. My dad added, we thought maybe we could clear the air. I stayed silent, arms crossed, waiting. My mom faltered, then said, we didn't know how much you understood. That was the giveaway. They knew I knew, but they didn't know how much I had pieced together. You mean the bag? I asked. Neither of them answered. You put it in our trunk, I said, with your grandchildren in the back seat. My mom swallowed hard. We didn't think it would be a big deal, she said. It wasn't supposed to be anything, just something to help with the debt. We were desperate, my dad added. There it was, the fallback excuse. You wouldn't help. Like that justified everything. Like their betrayal was just a consequence of my refusal to give in. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. You didn't just betray me, I said calmly. You risked our lives. Neither of them spoke. You risked your daughter, your son-in-law, and your grandchildren. My dad shifted, uncomfortable, while my mom blinked, trying, but failing, to summon tears. We're done, I said. Don't call. Don't come here. You don't get to see the kids. This is over. She opened her mouth. I could already hear the classic excuses, the "you'll cool off" line. Instead, she just said, "You'll come around. You always do." I turned, walked back inside, and locked the door behind me. For the first time in a long time, I didn't wonder if she was right. 3 days later, I went to pick up the kids from school, but they weren't there. My stomach dropped, and I just stared at the teacher, as if she'd told me my house had burned down. "Oh, they were already picked up," she said like it was no big deal. "Your parents came to get them. They said you'd ask them to." I didn't remember driving. I only remember sitting in the car and hearing the engine hum. Of course, they were at my parents' house. Inside, it looked like a birthday party had exploded. Toys, candy, balloons, a Lego set worth more than my weekly grocery budget. The kids were on a sugar high, grinning, clutching new things, laughing like they'd just stepped into Disneyland. My parents acted as if nothing was wrong. My mom sliced cake, and my dad fiddled with a toy that beeped. It felt surreal, like stepping into a parallel universe where they weren't the people who had tried to destroy my life. But they weren't acting out of love. This was a strategy, emotional manipulation masked as affection. They'd never spoiled the kids before, not like this. "We're leaving," I said. The kids whined. "But why?" Grandma asked. "We're leaving now," I repeated. They didn't understand. Of course they didn't. They were being told yes by people who had always said no. And they liked it. "Can we keep the toys?" one of them asked, clutching a stuffed bear like it had all the answers. I hesitated, just for a moment, then said, "Yes, because taking them away would give my parents the victory. And I wasn't going to let them have that." As we left, my mom called out to me in a sing-song voice, "They'll come back to us. They always do." She said it like it was a fact. Like a promise. Like she still thought she could win. That night, I didn't wait for some grand emotional breakdown. I just sat on the bed, looked at my husband, and said, "We have to leave." He didn't ask why. He didn't need to. "You mentioned North Carolina before," I said. "Your company has an office there. Your parents live there." I wasn't ready then. I am now. He nodded. "The transfer is still on the table." "Good," I said. "Let's take it." No drama. No hesitation. Just a quiet decision to leave everything behind. To burn the bridge and never look back. We didn't need revenge. We needed distance, a fresh start somewhere they couldn't reach us. A few months later, we were in North Carolina. The mountains were beautiful. The air smelled like pine and new beginnings. The kids were in new schools and his parents, warm and grounded, lived nearby. They actually wanted to help. We didn't tell anyone where we were. We blocked the numbers, disappeared, and not in some dramatic, soul-searching way, but in a "we deserve peace" kind of way. One day, my phone rang from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened to the message. A cousin, one I barely spoke to. "Hey, your mom says she doesn't know where you are. She's really upset. You just cut off contact. Family matters." I deleted the message. Didn't call back. Didn't explain. Because by then, the only thing I cared about was this. We were safe. We were free. Months later, I got an email from my sister. Subject: "Emergency, please read." I thought about deleting it unread. But instead, I opened it. It was long, frantic, poorly punctuated. The gist? Our parents had been arrested. Not for something stupid this time, but for trying to smuggle something across the border themselves. No middlemen, just them and a trunk full of drugs. Of course they got caught. The email ended with a plea. They needed money for a lawyer. This was serious. "You have to help." I read that last line 3 times. Then I hit reply. All I wrote was, "And I did show up once. I'm not doing it again." I didn't hear from them again. And I didn't need to. Word eventually got back to me. They were charged with possession and attempting to cross an international border with controlled substances. They took a plea deal. For years each. Not life-changing, but it was enough time for them to sit with what they'd done, if they were capable of that. Though honestly, I doubt they were. The part of me that used to flinch when people talked about second chances was silent now. We have a life here. It's not perfect, but it's ours. The kids laugh more. My husband sleeps better. And I haven't had to bury my peace under guilt in a long time. As for the rest of it, I don't regret the boundary. Not for a second. But tell me, did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments. And if you're new here, hit subscribe.